Yeah. So creating curiosity is step 2 in the sales conversation. This is the most missed step in the
Okay.
sales process.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Win the Hour, Win the Day. And today in the house, Nikki Rausch, the Sales Maven, is here to help us so that we can just have so much more coming into our business and having fun doing it. Welcome to the show, Nikki.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
Okay, Nikki, sales sometimes can be a delicate subject. I know it's got a bad name, and I feel for years it's this idea as if you have something and you're going to force it upon somebody. But let's just all say that we are in agreement as entrepreneurs, as business owners, that we know that is not our motive. Our motive is to educate and make sure someone gets the help that we can deliver. So let's put a pin in that and we start from that agreement. Nikki, tell us what we need to know in order for this to be a more smooth and effective process.
Well, back to just even what you said here about putting a pin in this idea of like sales gets a bad rap. Sales is actually something that you do with people, not to them. Okay. And when you start approaching sales as this is a with conversation, and it truly is a conversation, the objective is to find out, do you have a problem, a need, or a want? And do I have a solution that will meet that problem, that need, or that want? And then I feel obligated, honestly, to put that offer in front of you and then let you decide that you're ready to move forward or you're not. And either way is okay, because I'm focused on the relationship. I'm focused on the conversation and making sure that I'm being of service to the person I'm in conversation with. And now it takes the pressure off of that, like, oh my gosh, I have to sell this person, or, oh my gosh, this person's going to think I'm slimy or, aggressive or whatever, because now we're just focused on, hey, this is just me and you in a conversation and we're just chatting and we're seeing where should we go next.
Yeah. And I think you guys out there probably know better than this, but I'm telling you, in the beginning of, I started my business many years ago, you would have this sense of like, oh, you need the sale. But I'm telling you, those people that you drag across the finish line, kicking and screaming, or, that aren't all in. Like, I want somebody hungry. When I talk to people about, how we can help you with a business that supports your life instead of consuming it. If their eyes don't light up, if they're not all like, yeah, I'd like to be having evenings and weekends off and making more money and just working on the real work, if they don't get all like excited about that, they're not for me, because then you're doing all the work. You're carrying them through the relationship. It just starts off very negative. You can't convince anybody that it just doesn't work. So I'll stop my rant now. All right, continue. That was my rant.
And I agree with that. Like, your job in sales is not to try to convince somebody to buy from you or try to change their mind or try to shame them in, or make them feel so much pain that they can't do anything but hire you. Like, I am so sick of all of that, like, garbage and that misconception around sales. Okay. That really it's about being of service. It's about showing up in a conversation and being strategic. This is why I teach the selling staircase, which is my 5-step approach to the sales conversation. Be strategic in the conversation, but you don't need to chase anybody. Like, as a matter of fact, I also say, like, you should never be chasing clients. If you're chasing clients, they turn into toddlers. It's like if you say to a toddler right now that's like 3 years old, if you say, I'm going to chase you, they take off running. They like don't even know why we're playing the game, but they're going to run. Yeah. And people will do the same thing with you. If you act like I'm going to chase you, they're going to run from you. So you don't need to chase. What you need to do is attract ideal clients and, frankly, repel as fast as possible in the kindest way the people who are not a good fit. That's what I call the bless and release.
Oh, bless and release. That sounds like a good fishing show. Okay. The bless and release. Okay. So we talk about the selling staircase framework. So the intro.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
So step 1 is introduction. And the idea behind the introduction is you need to make a powerful first impression. Okay. So think about, how are you showing up in conversations? And by the way, this impression can be made on social media. It can be made on your website. It can be made because somebody heard you speak at an event, or however it is, or on a podcast even. Are you showing up and making a powerful first impression? Or are you the person who's showing up and acting like, well, maybe, sometimes I can help people, or like, I mean, some people like what I do. It's like, no, stand in your place of credibility, stand in your place of authority, and talk about who you help, who you support, what people get when they work with you. Make a powerful first impression. Be confident about your impact that you make in the world, and put people
I
at
relate
ease.
to that though. Do you have
Yeah.
to, and I can't relate to that. And
Okay.
please,
Tell me.
I'll tell you why. And I say this with love. And,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
this, I say like, do you have to tell somebody that? Like, do you have to
No.
tell, do you know what I mean? Like, do you have to tell somebody to be confident?
Uh, no, I'm not telling people to. I'm saying stand in your place of credibility.
Okay. Oh,
Okay.
I see. Okay. So I might be getting them confused. So here, this is a really good clarification. So in my head, I'm hearing you say, oh my gosh, I just feel like, cause I get not annoyed, but I just think like, look, you have to show up and be confident, or who is going to, but I think maybe what you're saying is, and when I talk like this is my enthusiasm for the
I
topic,
love
not
it.
like, yeah, not like a
Let's
big
do it.
pushback. It's
Yeah.
not a criticism. So I think what you're saying though, is maybe the mistake that so often we all make is I can come off in confident in who I am as Chris. But then maybe if I'm in business 2 years or 6 years, or the person I want to be role modeled after, or whatever, my competitor, for lack of a better word, has been doing it for 15 years. And so then when I'm presenting it, how do I say that? Not even that I'm an expert in this, but like, yes, I have a lot I can teach you. So I guess you're owning your expertise, your experience.
Yes.
So I heard that as not showing up confident, but I think what you're saying is like, look, we're all as entrepreneurs looking for how much we still have to learn, how much we still have to do, but own where you are because you know more than them.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
You got it. So I'm
Okay.
sorry, lack of clarity on my part
No,
here.
that's me. Don't blame you. I'm just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, the introduction piece is
Okay.
you want to put somebody at ease. You don't want to be the person who shows up in the room and is like, hey, everybody, I'm a really big deal. And you should recognize that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mean that. I mean, show up from a place of, not acting like because there are people ahead of you or behind you in
Right.
business, that makes you less than or more than. It's show up and be you. Stand
Right.
in your place of your expertise, your credibility, and put the person you're in conversation with at ease. Smile. Draw them in, ask them questions, be
Right.
willing to engage in conversation. And that can, again, happen on social media. That can happen face to face. But really the idea is, can you build rapport with somebody quickly? And if
Okay.
not, then it's learning some skills to do that. If you're somebody who's like, I'm really shy, guess what? So am I. I'm very shy. But I know how important it is to show up and be of service to people. And people only want to work with people who are really good at what they do. Like, I
Right.
don't ever go and give my money to somebody who I'm like, let's see what happens. Maybe they'll be able to help me. I want to go and give my money and work with people who are like, this person knows something that I don't know, and I want to learn it from them, or this person has something for me that's going to make my life better or make me happy in some way. So that's who I want to work with. So you've got to be that person for your ideal clients.
Okay. So that's the intro. And then we've got create curiosity.
Yeah. So creating curiosity is step 2 in the sales conversation. This is the most missed step in the sales process. People forget, they go right from introduction and they try to skip all the steps and they go right into sales mode. And that's a huge mistake, because if the person you're in conversation with doesn't have a need, a want, or a desire for whatever it is that you offer, now you're in convince mode. You're trying to change somebody's mind about something. And that feels gross and icky to the other person.
Yeah.
And also, it can be confusing to the other person. They're like, why is this person selling to me? Like, I don't know if you've ever had this happen, Chris, where somebody just shows up and they're like, I went and looked at your website and you really need help with SEO. And here's how I'm going to help you with SEO. Are you a little bit like, well, first of all, you don't know my behind the scenes on my website. I didn't even give you permission to make your observation about my SEO, and I don't appreciate it. Right. So instead, can you create curiosity? So if I'm showing up in a conversation with somebody, I might say, if somebody asks me just a really simple question, I want to be able to talk about business, right? Like, that's important to open the door. Like, are you even talking to an ideal client, or are you just talking to somebody it's nice to have a conversation with? So let's say I'm in an event, I show up and somebody says something like, "Oh, how have you been lately?" I could have a really basic answer. I could say, "Oh, I've been fine," but that doesn't create any curiosity. But instead, I might say, "Oh, I've been really great. I just got my workbooks ordered for my next masterclass today."
Oh, okay.
That
Okay.
allows
Right.
the other person then to then maybe potentially ask me some questions. They might say, "Oh, what do you mean a workbook?" Or, "Oh, what's your master class about?" Or, "Oh, who takes your master classes?" Now it opens the door for me to start to talk about what I do and who I am.
Okay.
Okay.
So what you're also pointing out here too is we sometimes get this confusion when we pull up our chairs to the table, the typical boardroom table. Now I'm ready to sell. You're really ready to be sold too. And really, like I often say when people have a pushback on sales, I say, listen, sales is everything. Sales is how you got your date and your spouse and how you get the kids to bed. And
Amen.
sales is everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I say that all the time, but yet I'm reminded what you're saying here is, actually sales is probably at its worst when you're in a situation where there's going to be some selling. So what you're saying, integrate it into all dynamics, and that just then moves it through the process much more elegantly and simple.
Yes, because what happens is when you start to create curiosity, the other person will start to ask questions. From their questions, sometimes what happens is then buying signals happen. So if I say something about a masterclass and they go, "What's your masterclass about?" And I say it and they go, "Oh, that's so interesting. That might be something I should consider." Okay, buying signal potentially. So now I might invite them to the next step in the conversation, which is discovery. Okay. Now notice I'm still not in sales mode. I'm in discovery mode. I'm here to find out now a little bit more about them, what's going on for them. Do they have a problem, a need, or a want? And do I have a solution? So in the discovery process, I just jumped ahead. Are you okay that I jumped to step 3?
No, I loved it. No, I'm not guiding this. I
just want to make sure.
No. I was thinking that you're so right. People tend to skip that and go right to sales. So no, I'll tell you so you people can all listen in. But when I then say, okay, the next thing, I rather you move on to the next thing than me have to guide you through the interview. So you're doing awesome.
Okay, good.
This to me is what you call a good interview, right?
Oh, okay. Fantastic. So step 3 in the discovery, now we're asking questions and we're not asking a question, letting them answer, and then selling them a solution. We're asking a series of questions that we know that will lead somebody down this path to self-identify, "Oh, I'm interested in more information here," or "I'm interested in finding out a way to work with you," or for them to go, "This isn't for me." And that's okay. So we're going to ask strategic questions in the discovery. Things like, well, so for instance, if they're asking about the masterclass, I might say, "Well, what would you say is your biggest struggle when it comes to sales?"
Okay.
Because that answer is going to give me so much information about this person that I can then maybe their answer is, "I just need help with marketing." Well, that's not what I do. And if that's their answer, then I can know that maybe this isn't a potential person that would want to work with me. But if their answer is, "I really struggle with closing and I'm so uncomfortable even broaching conversations." Well, now I'm going to take that information and at some point I'm going to bring it back into the conversation when I have their permission to lay out an offer. So step 3, ask strategic questions. And the idea of these questions is not, again, to ask questions, sell, ask questions, sell. It's just ask questions, get it clean, find out, do they have a problem, a need, or a want? And then I'm going to say to them, based on what you've shared, you actually would be an ideal candidate for this upcoming masterclass. Would you be interested to hear a little bit more about it and how it might apply to you?
Because you know what, you bring up a couple of good points. Because too, with the discovery part, you're also discovering if they're a good fit for you, right?
Yes.
So we deal with, we help mostly service-based entrepreneurs that have been in business at least 5-6 years, and they're just working more hours than they expected to at this point. Like they look good on paper. They may have a podcast like yourself and that's fine, but they're still working evenings and weekends. Right. So sometimes when I start asking questions in the discovery phase, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're in my head." Cause I'll say, things like, "Well, you're like a little drug addict at night when your family's in bed, you're trying to get one more email done." Like, yeah. Right. So, but then I've had people, it's only happened once or twice where I've had someone like, I would say, well, so they're trying to do it all their own, and you definitely need to have a team, right? A team can be 2 people, whatever, but so many people confuse having a VA as a team, but then you're just dumping work on the VA. It's not really a team. It's more like a parent-child thing. But some people don't even have that. And I said to this one guy, well, why are you doing this all yourself? Because you really don't have a business. You're a sufferpreneur if you're doing it by yourself. And he's like, well, I don't trust anyone. Everyone out there's out there to screw you. And I was like, okay, we're done. Like, I've got nothing I can't help. And I said to him very nicely, I do not have the skill set to change your worldview. So, we're good. Bless and release, right?
Yeah. Bless and release.
I think that's really important. Okay. Fabulous. So keep going there. Yep. The discovery. Got it.
So even what you just said there about that example, you're identifying, am I talking to an ideal client? And I'm going to say, like, please give yourself permission at any point in the conversation when you realize this is not an ideal client for me, for you to say, based on what you've shared, I get a sense I'm not the best fit for you. So I'm going to decline continuing the conversation, but I'm so happy I met you and I wish you well. Like, I'm going to bring that to a close.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to put an offer in front of them. I'm not going to ask permission to sell them anything, because I, as the entrepreneur, get to decide who I'm going to take on as a client.
That's, but that's a really powerful point, because I've been in, whatever little conversations like that. And they're there to, they're asking about the whole, it's a sales call. I don't even like using that word, strategy session, whatever, but it's sales call. They know that they're showed up and, 10, 12 minutes in, I'm like, I do not want to work for this person. And I'm sitting there. There's been times where I'm like, I'm hoping she doesn't get back to me or whatever. And you're right. I should just be saying, you know what, based on what you're saying, let's not sit out a bad date.
Yeah. It's just even, I always say, like, I'm going to respectfully decline continuing this conversation. Thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed meeting you and I wish you well.
Yeah.
And that is my, like, straight up bless release. Yeah. I'm not here to try to tell you why you need to change your mind. And I'm not here for you to tell me why I need to change mine either.
You're right. Okay. Continue, my wise friend, Nikki.
So now we've moved to, I've gotten their permission. I said, you might be a fit for this. Is that something you'd like to hear more about? They say yes. Now I'm in step 4, which is proposal. Now, this doesn't mean a formal proposal, although depending on the type of business you're in, it may. For me, a lot of times it's like, here's what I would recommend for you. And in the proposal step, this is, again, one of those places you have to really stand in your credibility. And your job is to recommend what you know they need, not what you think they can afford.
Okay.
And this can get in the way sometimes for people, because they're like, oh, I don't know if they would pay this much. But if that's really what based on what you've discovered in the discovery process, this is the best solution. You owe it to them to put it in front of them. Now, let them decide, I'm not willing to spend that much, or I can't swing that at this point, or whatever. And then you can offer them something less expensive, if that makes sense. But really stand in your place of credibility, recommend what you know they need, make it a simple, clear offer. So I might say to them, you'd be an ideal candidate for this masterclass, because we're going to talk about some of the things that came up in the discovery. They said that, like, they're struggling with closing. They're not having enough business conversations. We're going to give you, some scripts about how to initiate conversation or whatever that is. And then I'm going to follow up with step 5, which is the close. Step 4 and 5 go so closely together, and you can't really do one without the other. And step 5 is where you issue close language. So I'm going to clearly lay out my offer. And then I'm going to say, is that something you'd like to sign up for? Okay. And I'm going to wait.
Okay.
And I'm going to let them respond.
Now, I have been doing that I think for a long time. And let me add this, and humble brag. So when I tell you this, I'm going to tell you why I think I did it well. Is because I did it poorly for so long. So before you think that I'm going to brag myself up, let me shoot myself way down. So what I was saying at the end is, does that seem of value to you? But whatever the language is, I then stop talking. Whereas in my early years of business, the first 2 years I was in business, like 12, 15 years ago, it was like Xena, the warrior princess, because I would be like, la, 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 and here's all the information, right? And you have to say whatever language is, and I would defer to Nikki's wise sales language, the Sales Maven here. Whatever your sentence is, then it doesn't matter if it starts to rain or snow or wherever you are, whatever happens around you, you just can't talk. Because I personally believe if you do, you're either going to backpedal or soften it or screw it up or over talk their thinking. Like you just have to stop talking. So I think that's what you're saying is the most powerful thing is then that's it. Then you sit there in silence and they will speak because you're just sitting there in silence.
Yes. So yes.
Okay.
So you make the close and and I loved your close language too. Does that seem of value to you?
Yeah.
Then you zip it and you wait. And because if you keep talking, that's called selling past the close.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like handing somebody a really nice, beautiful, like clear glass of water and then throwing a little clump of dirt in it and then saying, now drink up. Like who wants to drink that? You might be saying, well, it's a little clump of dirt. Well, now you just muddied the water. Stop muddying the waters. Leave it clear. Be quiet.
I can tell you a quick story that you might want to borrow, Nikki. It was a client of mine and he traveled for his business and stuff. And he was in Japan because he dealt with bigger corporations and all this other stuff. And we were talking about sales one day and he said he was somewhere and there was him and his salesperson. And then there was the person they were selling to, we'll call him Wong, whatever. Right. And so they were doing the sales thing. And then Mr. Wong went to say something and the guy that was with the company started talking and blah, 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 and saying, well, you know what, listen, and why you really want to do it now is your quarterly projections. And this is really going to make a difference compared to where you are, the whole thing. And then Mr. Wong went to say something else. And the guy again said, and also, so, you get the idea, whatever. And so finally, my business friend said, listen, I think Mr. Wong wants to say something. And he said, I'm sorry, my apologies. What do you want to say, Mr. Wong? And he said, I buy. So he was trying to get the, I buy, here's my English, I buy. And you kept over talking him and you wouldn't even get the I buy in. Like you sold him for it 5 minutes ago, stop talking. So yeah. I even teach that with my team. Like if somebody says to me like, oh, Evan, I always lecturing Evan at something and say, listen, is it possible I get Friday afternoon off, whatever. And he's explaining why this whole big thing. And I say, yeah, no problem. And then he said, well, because also, and then I'm like, Evan, don't talk past the sale. You just got what you wanted.
That's right.
I don't need to hear about everything, right? You got what you wanted. Don't talk past the sale, right?
No, you never need to sell past the close. Let them say yes, no, I need to think about it, whatever they're going to respond. But if you don't give them a chance to respond, then you're probably going to muddy the waters. You're going to miss out on earning their business. You're going to confuse them, frustrate them, frankly, annoy them, whatever it is, but knock it off. You don't need to sell past the close, no matter how nervous you are. Somebody asked me one time, actually on a podcast, she's like, oh, but I really, really struggle with this. Like, do you have a piece of advice? And I said, yes, put your lips together and press.
Yes.
Stop. Like, that's it.
Yes, here's the advice. Because you are right. Your analogy of putting a little bit of mud in the water just taints the whole water, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's really powerful. And I think too, that you're not going to win either way. Either you muddy the waters, or if they're not interested, you're not going to convince them. The more, and we all know in sales, the more you talk yourself out of something, because now you're introducing things that are not relevant to them, right?
Yes. It's like, as soon as you go into convince mode, it's kind of like, your kids at the store with you and they're like, can I have this? Can I have this? Can I please? And you're like, no, put it back. Oh, but I really, really want it. Can I please? And you're like, now you're never getting it. Like we're done. Put it back.
Now you're just whining. I have no sympathy for you.
Yeah. So you don't need to be that in a sales conversation ever.
Yeah.
Because even, one of the things that often comes up too is people will say, oh, well, the person said I need to think about it. Now I need to convince them before I get off the phone. Not necessarily. And as a matter of fact, if somebody says to me, Nikki, I need to think about it, I say, great. About how much time do you think you'll need? Let's schedule a circle back call now. Let's get it on our calendars. That way you get your time to think about it. And on that call, we'll answer any additional questions that come up from you. And we'll talk about next steps for working together.
Okay. Nikki, let me jump in there.
Yeah.
What about, sometimes I think people say that because they're looking at you and they're smiling and they feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so I need to think about it means I can't break up with you to your face, but we won't be doing this. So I don't know. I would have in the past and said, let's do another call, because I think they're trying to get a way out.
Okay. So be really careful with projecting and making assumptions about what they're doing.
Okay.
Let them decide. So one thing will happen when I say, well, then let's, great. About how much time do you think you'll need? Let's schedule a circle back call. Most of the time people say, I'll just call you when I'm ready.
Okay.
Then I say, great. I'll look forward to your
Okay.
call when you're ready. I now bless and release that because
Okay.
I think also in sales, your job is to make it okay for people to say no to you and let them
Right.
know, like, our relationship's intact either way. Like,
Yeah.
we're okay. You and I as people, we're okay if you say no to me. I'm not offended. I'm not going to like take it personal. Maybe I'll be
Yeah.
disappointed because I don't get to work with you, but that's kind of
Yeah.
it.
I won't
And
openly cry.
no, I won't openly cry. I won't be, defensive, which
Yeah.
I've been on the receiving end of this too, where people have
Yeah.
been weird. And I actually had a woman hang up on me one time because I said I declined to her in a nice way, but she was so
Yeah.
offended. And then of course, guess what? Turns out about a year later, I needed something that she sold. Do you think I went and bought from her? Heck no. I went and
Yeah.
bought from somebody else who sells what she sells. So
Yeah.
leave that door open. If somebody's going to say no, it's okay. But by getting a circle back call scheduled, one of two things are going to happen. They're actually going to think about it, okay, before the call, and they're going to make some decisions. And if they decide they're not going to hire you, they're probably going to schedule the circle back call. Good.
Right.
I
And no,
don't want
that's
to get on
fine.
that call. Yeah.
You're right. I was projecting. I was giving them a way out, and it's not my business. They're
Yeah, let
capable,
them.
so
Yep.
they can figure it out another way to blow me off.
Yeah.
That's
If
fine.
you're selling to adults, they'll let you know.
Yeah.
Or they'll get
Yeah.
on the call, they'll have a question, and
Yeah.
they might be ready to move forward. I can't tell you how many times I've gone on circle back calls with people who has said to me, I have actually a great story from a woman years ago who was like, I got on this call and it was a no for me, Nikki. But the way that you handled it made me think, I want to be able to do this with my clients. And the way I feel about our relationship and our conversation right now, you know what? I'm in. I want to work with you. And I was like, great, let's move forward.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. This was a spectacular use of our time. I hope you guys all appreciate Nikki as much as I do. Nikki, where else could they find your brilliance?
Well, the easiest way, I'm going to wrap it around a gift for your audience, if that's okay.
We love gifts.
Okay. So I have a book it's an ebook called Closing the Sale. And it kind of talks through those last 3 steps, the discovery, the proposal, and the close. You can get that by going to your Sales Maven, and Maven is maven.com/win. WIN. And then we'll be connected. Or if you're a podcast listener, which obviously you are, come check out my podcast, which is Sales Maven. I'd love to hear from your listeners.
Gotcha. Nikki, thank you so much. We really, truly appreciate you. And everyone else, we will see you in the next episode.